Welcome to the Customer Catalyst Conference 2021, to our session focusing on customer experience with Gabriele Masili, almost universally known as G, the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, Customer Experience and Customer Success at Microsoft. As you will almost certainly know, Microsoft has transformed itself multiple times, quite a feat for a global company. G reveals how he delivers service excellence and looks at the challenges, the technologies and strategies deployed to shift towards a fully customer-led organization. G speaks with Chris Adlard.
Hello and welcome to this fantastic session at the Customer Catalyst Conference. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Gabriele Masili, or affectionately known as G, who is Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft's Customer Experience and Success organization, and we're absolutely delighted to meet with G today. G, thanks very much for joining me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation about customer experience at Microsoft and what you're doing there. It's just incredible. However, before I jump into that, would you mind just introducing yourself, tell a little bit about your background and your role at Microsoft?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for having me. So I've been at Microsoft now slightly over 4 years, and as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Technology Officer MVP for the Customer Experience and Success organization, which basically means that my teams are in charge of all the customer-facing self-service solutions and digital solutions that are helping our customer to have a smoother journey when working with Microsoft, as well as all the internal technology that helps our teams in the support and services space to actually deliver excellent service to our customers. So that's the space I operate within. And there is a lot of innovation going on, so a lot of exciting things I would love to share with you today.
Fantastic, great. And, looking at, I guess, Microsoft from the outside, the Microsoft that we see today, if we compare it to the Microsoft, let's say 5 years ago, which one could argue was known as more of a product-centric company, it's changed massively. If you think about Microsoft on the OS side, the Office applications, the software development tools, very kind of product sales focused, I would say. And it feels like the company has really made that distinct shift to becoming a customer-led organization. The hiring of tens of thousands of customer service managers, the dependence on open platforming, new collaboration technology that we're using today, such as Teams, the whole partner ecosystem, it is incredible. Can you talk about this shift? Why has it happened? How do you see it, Gio? I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I think you said it well. It's all about putting the customer at the center. So customer obsession is one of the pillars in our culture. And if you look at our Microsoft mission, is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more, which basically puts the customer right at the center of everything we do. So it's not surprising then with that mission and with all the work we have been doing to satisfy the always changing customer needs, our focus shifted to be even more on the customers. And that starts with the culture clearly, but also goes into everything we do. So from the products, from our digital transformation efforts, and from all the people we have. As you mentioned, we have tens of thousands of folks working in the support and services space, serving customers and supporting them every single day. So all of that contributes to creating that customer centricity that is so vital for the way we operate. And when it comes to the way we frame that, we call it the connected customer experience. You see it here on my wall. So the connected customer experience is what we use to rally all those forces around the customers and help them to be successful every day.
Fantastic. So I'm sure a lot of the viewers of this session will want to know a little bit more in detail about what does a connected customer experience mean? What does it entail exactly?
Perfect. Let me dig into it then. So there are three main elements and three foundational experiences. So the three main elements that we call the priorities are, one, to accelerate value for our customers. So making sure that the customer can get the absolute best of the product and services they are using from Microsoft and helping them to obtain more and more out of those. The second is to modernize support which means elevate our support experience to an even higher level, helping customers in their support journey. And also, when we say support is a very comprehensive term here, is everything that happens after the customer has our product and service, and also some things that happen before they actually have our products and services. So support is a very broad term there, and we are on a multi-year journey to modernize that and to make it even more competitive and compelling for the customers to use. And then the third priority is transform the customer experience, which goes into looking at the customer experience for the end-to-end customer journey, from the first time they hear about Microsoft to the moment they are working with us and using our products and services, and eventually have to engage with our teams to get the best out of those. So, underlining these three priorities, there are other three foundational priorities. One is to deliver model scale, which basically focuses on our people and the ability to have a support organization and a services organization that can continue to scale up to the always increasing customer demand. The digital enablement is the second one, and is where a lot of the work I'm doing sits into. Digital enablement is our digital transformation journey, so we're going to talk more about that, I'm sure, later. And last but certainly not least, at the base of everything, there is our world-class team. So all the focus we put on making sure that everybody can bring their best self at work every single day, and creating an environment that is inclusive, that is diverse, that allows our customer to see themselves reflected in the work we do every single day.
Fantastic. I mean, at the Customer Catalyst, we talk about an end-to-end customer experience. Often that's referred to as the bit after the sale is made, and it's fantastic. You talk about it at the pre-sale phase before, the customer's even heard of the organization. And very much this is a cultural thing as well at Microsoft. It's just amazing. So, we all know that often customer vision statements are put on the wall, and it's very clear theoretically how it works. But how does Microsoft actually connect that amazing vision and end-to-end experience you're creating for your customers to the goals and really the activities of your employees across the organization? How are they making that shift towards this new world?
Well, it starts with a mission, certainly, but it goes then into the pillars, the priorities that I mentioned in the connected customer experience. The way they are put in practice, they basically translate into our objectives and key results. So we use the OKR framework to drive and measure our processes and our success as a company. So when we look at the objectives that we have across all the teams are aligned with those connected customer experiences, which means that even if the teams are working in parallel on different things, they are all going in the same direction. And when it comes to the key results, what we often do is we share some of those key results across different teams. As an example, my group, which is mainly composed by product managers and program managers, works in very close partnership with some of our product engineering groups, and we share key results so that we are actually measuring the same metrics to understand if we are successful. So that brings the teams together towards common goals. And that is across the board. So it's not only the measurement, it's also the way we reward people, it's also the way we look at the impact we contribute as individuals. So all of that aligns in the end to our connected customer experience and contributes to the mission. So those are the practical elements that make these things possible. And then there is what you would expect, for any cultural transformation that happens. So you will have information material, you will have training, you will have forums where people can come together and discuss about how to better implement these changes and so on and so forth.
Amazing. So a whole cornucopia of activities and measurements that are all around aligning the employees to that customer experience that you're creating across the organization. I mean, culturally, that's huge. And as you say, it marks a very big shift to, let's say, Microsoft maybe 10 years ago. Now, one thing that you have been talking about in previous interviews, which I find absolutely fascinating, is you almost treat customer experience at Microsoft as a product in its own right. And one of the things we talked about in the Customer Catalyst is that in many ways, the customer and the product are on different axes. the product sales economy, we argue, is over. We're moving to a customer economy. And yet you're still applying those product principles to the customer experience at Microsoft. What do you mean by that exactly?
Chris, you said it very well. I mean, Microsoft has been a product company, so has product leadership embedded in everything we do and the way we operate. So it was just natural to treat customer experience as one of our products. What it means in practice is that we can measure the way we are driving the customer experience. As an example, we have roadmaps, we have customer journeys, we look at the features we are deploying from a customer experience standpoint, we do user acceptance testing, we do user analysis, we obviously have a very close loop with the voice of the customer and the voice of the users to understand if anything we are doing from a CX standpoint, from a customer experience standpoint, is actually driving the results that we would like our users to have. And we hear from that very close loop in the voice of the customer and the users, we hear the things that are working and the things that we need to change. All of that goes back right into the product roadmap, the updates we put into the customer experience, and so on and so forth. So that's what we mean when we say CX for us is a product. It's not that we focus on it like a product, it's that we manage it like a product. So we can use all the tools and all the technology that we have to drive all of our product roadmaps as well to put them into the customer experience journey. So that helps to put CX at the center of everything we do, and in turn, obviously, contributes to that, when it works well, contributes to the success of the company, driving more customer engagement, more customer consumption, and in the end, customer satisfaction and customer loyalty that are the best indicators of the longer term success.
Amazing. I mean, it's incredible to think that given the focus on products at Microsoft for, I guess, decades, that organizational memory is still there, that people understand how product launches work, how to manage a product. That organizational memory is so well embedded that it's a very well-oiled machine. And to apply that thinking and approach to customer experience is a really smart way of doing it. It's almost like the best of both worlds in some ways. So just great. So we talked a little bit about this before, but how do you go to the next level of operational reality? So we've got goals, we've got mission statements, we're trying to align employees to different parts of the customer experience and so on. Is there anything else that you can talk around how you metricize this and make this part of people's KPIs?
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, when you have to double click from those high level objectives and the key results, then you need to use what we call telemetry, which is basically data at very granular level. Let me give you an example. So when we look at the how we serve our customer using what we call our virtual agents. So we have technology that uses conversational artificial intelligence to have dialogues with the customers when they are looking for help for some specific topics. The customers love the convenience because they can just get into it without waiting for one of our experts to be available to join them on a chat or on a phone conversation. And the system can provide them information that is tailored, customized to their specific situation. So which products they have, what they were using before they had an issue, and so on and so forth. To be able to do all of that, we use telemetry, we use data, so we know what the customers are facing as an issue, and we can predict what could be the best solution for them. And we can also measure if that is actually the solution that helps the customer. As an example, one of the metrics we use is what we call problem resolution rate. Problem resolution rate, or PRR, is the percentage of time that the customers are saying yes to the question we ask them, did I solve your problem? Through, in this example, the Power Virtual Agent conversational AI driven exchange. So in those exchanges, we ask at the end of the customer to provide a feedback. And if the customer say, yes, you solved my problem, then we count that as a positive. And then we use that information to go back and to look at that dialogue with the customer to understand what are the parts of that dialogue that were successful and reinforce them, or understand which one of those dialogues failed actually, and then look at the opportunity to improve them. So that's one of the many examples we use to, where we use metrics to drive a constantly improving customer experience.
Right. I mean, we talk a lot about the phrase data is the new oil is well known. And when Clive Humby came up with that phrase, he didn't mean to say that there was, that the value of data on its own is priceless. What he was saying was that it's the way that data is mined and processed in order to give you insight. So it seems that what Microsoft has been doing is actually not just taking the data, but finding meaningful metrics that actually show whether this customer experience is being improved, how it links to employees' goals and KPIs, and that's feels like a very sophisticated and presumably ever evolving way of doing it. So just on that basis, do you think CX now is more human driven or AI, big data, automation driven? Where do you think the shift should be? Are we going to go brave new world, or is it going to remain a balance moving forward, do you think?
I don't think there will be the balance we know today, and certainly the balance today is already very different than the one we had just 5 years ago. I think there will be new balances where we are going to get more and more acceleration on both sides. I would expect our artificial intelligence capabilities to continue to evolve and continue to provide even better experiences, both to the customers and to our human experts. And those human experts can therefore evolve and accelerate further for two reasons. One is because we are able to take away from them a lot of the transactional, repetitive, tedious tasks that in the past they were manually handled. Right now we can use technology to automate most of those. So they don't have to be, repeating the same things over and over. They can focus on what they love to do, which is solving customer problems or adding value to the customers' lives. And the other thing is that we use artificial intelligence to inject knowledge at the point of interest. So as an example, if I'm a support expert and I'm talking with a customer about a problem they're having on their Surface machine, on their Surface laptop as an example, the system will recognize that something is going wrong and will provide me directly inline information that is contextual that can help me do a better job helping that customer. So I'm happier because clearly I get the information I need without having to search for it, and it's right when I need it. And the customer is happier because it's going to get their problem resolved faster in a more seamless way. So this is just one of the ways we use artificial intelligence to augment human capabilities, which, if I can summarize that's the key to me. It's not about where the balance is, it's much more how can we push forward both sides of that equation so that we can get an incremental value for the customers.
So it's really about augmenting the experience in an intelligent and pragmatic way, not automating things for the sake of it, but it's actually helping the teams become more efficient and effective in the way that they're serving their customers. By the sounds of it, it's about smart use of the technology, not necessarily a blanket use of technology. And we see that in so many examples where chatbots and AI are just used and actually deteriorate the customer experience. It seems to me that the way Microsoft is going here is very much about intelligent use of that technology, and presumably, you're going to refine and improve this over time as well once you get that feedback from clients.
You are spot on, Chris. If I may add on that one, as you know, I'm deep into the industry. I'm connected with a lot of peers and having these conversations. I was talking just a couple of days ago about what you just described, a launch of an automated technology in one of the major airlines here in the US, and they automated a little bit too much because what I heard was user feedback, and I read articles that were complaining about this use of technology. So I think we need to be always very careful about how we accelerate through technology rather than what we try to replace through technology. One of the first things we learned when we were deploying the virtual agent that I was talking about before was that we want to have an escape hatch. So at any point in time when the customer is chatting with our virtual agent, they can simply say, I want to talk with somebody. And they will get straight connected to the best possible human expert. And the virtual agent will actually help to identify the best person based on a set of skills and profiles that can match that customer issue and help the customer. So there is no friction there whatsoever. Furthermore, what we implemented more recently is that there are two indicators. One, we use customer sentiment analysis in real time to understand if the customer is growing more frustrated about the conversation with the virtual agent. And then the virtual agent can propose directly, say, I see I'm not helping you enough here. Do you want me to put you in touch with an expert? Or we also know that there are some topics that are just too complex or too articulated to be properly solved to the virtual agent. Immediately, the virtual agent will say, this topic is too complex for me, so I will put you in touch with the right expert to help you. These are just a couple of examples on how we're using technology, again, to remove obstacles for the customers. In the end, what we want is the customer to be satisfied and happy with the experience, and not technology to be in their way. We want technology to make their life easier, certainly not, create obstacles for them.
That's great, thank you. It's funny, there are so many examples out there, aren't there, where this use of AI and CX tools, for the customers actually made things worse, as I was saying. And, we have an example in the Customer Catalyst book where a virtual reality signpost was put up. I think it was at Heathrow Airport in the UK. And it just looked like something out of a horror film. It wasn't clear where the people were meant to go. They could have just put a sign up saying, go this way for the trains, but it wasn't. So sometimes it feels like people use, or companies use technology as just an excuse to say, hey, we're advanced. But I think what you're saying is actually it's more important to get the customer experience right and then apply the technology appropriately, and evolve it over time so it becomes even more effective.
Definitely.
A couple of other questions here. This is great, really interesting to hear from you. How do you roll out an effective CS customer success program within Microsoft? What are your key tips and recommendations, G?
This is a great question. So, well, first of all, I'm a technologist at heart, so I come from an engineering background. I was a software engineering leader before I became a customer experience leader. And I really go back to that because a lot of our folks here at Microsoft have an engineering background, or they are active engineers. So what happens is that we go back to where we started. We go back to our mission. So it starts there, making sure that the mission is clear, making sure that in the mission, the experience of the customer is prominent. And what we say in our mission is we want to empower everybody to achieve the most they can achieve. So when we do that, it's inevitable that we can then derive a customer experience journey that is ideal for those customers and those users. So the next step is to align the organization. I mentioned some of those examples earlier. We have objectives, we have key results, we have the overall priorities for the connected customer experience. So all of those instruments help us to translate that overarching mission into practical steps that we can actually take, and we measure those steps. So we know we are going in the right direction as a group. We know the different teams that come together to work on a program, even if they have slightly different goals, they are going in the same direction. So that helps to drive the organization in a cohesive way. And certainly last but not least is the culture that is underpinning all of these choices. If you don't have an environment where people can express themselves and they can bring their opinion and their perspectives in a very transparent way, even when they are going against some of the mainstream line of thought, none of this will happen, because the reality is that the customer experience can be and has to be disrupted in order to improve it. Most of the times, it's very difficult to improve the customer experience materially just through little incremental steps. It's so much more effective when you have the courage to say, hey, this part of the experience doesn't really work the way it should. I mean, there may be good historical reasons why it is what it is, but that legacy shouldn't belong to our current journey with the customer. So let's throw it away and replace it with something that is what the customer expects today. Because the expectations also change so much and they continue to evolve very rapidly. So we can't stay with what we have just because we have it. We have to be, again, courageous and be able to take things that are not working and, be very transparent, measure those, replace them, and then see the experience evolving to the next level.
Interesting, very interesting. There's so much thought leadership out there about disruptive innovation and new products and so on. It feels like Microsoft is really leading the charge around disruptive innovation around customer experience and being able to almost just challenge inside the organization. In a way, it feels like a very positive, disruptive culture where people are encouraged to say, hey, that doesn't work for the customer. We need to sort this out. This is an important priority. So that's really a very, very kind of positive and a very constructive thing in many ways to make the right decisions for the client. One of the final, the final thing that for us has become even more evident over the last few years is the fact that organizational silos, the kind of the vestiges of the industrial age, as it were, where people work in HR, people work in sales, people work in all these functions. They create their own identities within an organization. And often these cross-functional, cross-business unit, cross-geography initiatives like customer experience are challenging because of those silos. So how do you break down those silos at Microsoft? Whether it's the best-in-class technology or the cultural initiatives you talked about, how do you get over the problem of silos?
I mean, clearly, that problem exists. Microsoft is a huge corporation. We have hundreds of thousands of employees, so it's inevitable that that problem exists. The opportunity that we are riding now is we use, as I mentioned earlier, we use common goals, we use common objectives to bring people together. As an example, if one of the product engineering teams is working on a feature that is a vital part of a customer experience in the services space, what we want to do is to make sure that those two teams have joint objectives. They may be exactly the same or they may be slightly different, but still contributing to the biggest priority from a connected customer experience standpoint. And so in that way, we know they're going to be driving in the same direction. There is another element, that is when you connect those dots through objective and key results, you also surface the obstacles that otherwise won't be visible. As an example, you may say, oh, I actually need a third team in the equation, or I need to remove that legacy technology that has been there for a while, or whatever it is, but it helps to increase that dialogue and have the opportunity to address the problems up front so that then you can go more smoothly when you are actually deploying the solutions.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds like, you're very much on a journey, like every organization, but maybe slightly ahead of the game compared to many other technology companies. You've recognized the importance of that, breaking down the silos, making it part of the culture, aligning goals across functions. And, we're seeing more and more of that. The future of the organization is aligned around the customer journey. And you guys are just kind of, really leading the charge there. It's impressive. I think that's probably all the questions for today. I am, again, so delighted to have met you, G. Absolutely brilliant insight into what's going on there. And just to say huge thanks for your time and thanks for your support with the Customer Catalyst as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Chris.